Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So today's video is kind of like a follow-up of one I did previously because big news broke about a week and a half ago that some suspects had been arrested as being those who may have ordered the order of the brutal assassination of the former Rio de Janeiro city councilor, Marielle Franco, on March 14th of 2018. So this is big news breaking in Brazil. And with the arrest of these three men, Black Brazil's social networks were abuzz about, once again, what do these men look like? So let me get directly into this video for today because, this is something that Black Brazilians have been speaking on for a number of years. Today's video is called Masterminds of Marielle Franco's Murder, Powerful White Men of a Privileged Class. So before I even get into this video, I want to ask that you subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video, and consider, clicking on the notification bell so that I put up another video, and definitely share this video. So with that said, let's get into the topic for today. I've said this before. People prefer to ignore this, but in Brazil, skin color plays a huge role in the way society sees and treats you. Even if people don't like to admit it, white skin, light-colored eyes, and other European attributes are associated with beauty, wealth, power, intelligence, while black skin, kinky hair, and salient African features are associated with poverty, ugliness, criminality, and vulnerability. I mean, deep down inside, why would people deny this? You know what I'm saying? Because when people have these discussions in the privacy of their own homes, people know what it means to be classified as white, or if you prefer black or brown in Brazil. It's just a fact, whether people want to admit it or not. There's been too many people who've talked about it. You can judge from the racist statements and gestures that people make every single day. People always judge like, okay, this happened to me, but would this have happened to me if I had white skin and a European appearance? It's really not hard to tell. If you followed the Black Brazil Today blog and the YouTube channel for any amount of time, this shouldn't be rocket science. How many examples of this do we need if we look at Brazilian politics, the media, the advertising market, university professors, diplomats, doctors, lawyers, politicians, the wealthy, runway models? We see the representation of mostly white Brazilians or those who we call Brazilian white. Even when white Brazilians fall off their pedestal, fall into drug addiction, or get caught up in scandals, the reputation and image of the group as a whole remains unscathed. Now, I'm not one to play the race card for everything, but there are simply some facts that need to be accepted in terms of how blackness and whiteness is seen in Brazil. I point this out because Black Brazilians have spoken out for years on how they have always been seen as quote unquote suspects. They are not expected to be seen in certain areas of the city, whatever city we're talking about in Brazil, or in certain social settings. They will always be the people followed around stores, stopped and asked to have their bags or purses checked. They will be stopped if they're driving a certain type of car. People will question what they're doing on flights or told that they can't pay for certain items in installments. To say we don't sell on layaway here. We don't sell by payment plan. You have to have the money, and they assume any Black Brazilians that goes into a certain store is not going to have the money to pay for it. So then it becomes this question of, are you sure you can afford this? And while it is true that Black Brazilians are often associated with petty crimes, they may get caught stealing chocolates or a bag of potato chips, but Brazilian society consistently wants to crucify Brazilians of African descent for crimes that cost a few reais, as well as those involved in drug trafficking, which is always a much smaller percentage of the poor population than is assumed. I always quote this particular study. Sometime, I don't know, in the early 2000s, a guy did a study on this. And he found that, like, the way Rio's slums are policed, you would believe that half of the population is involved in the drug trade, when they says in reality, less than 1% of the population is involved in the drug trade. So why are favelas and low-income areas of Rio and other cities across Brazil so heavily policed? Well, who's behind the drug trafficking? The black and brown people might be the ones who are the connections in terms of actually selling it from one person to another. But who's funding them? Who are the powerful forces at large that supply the drugs? Okay. Nobody ever wants to ask that. Then you talk about who are the people who have the money to buy these drugs? Why is this never ever taken into consideration? It's always, we're going to put out movies, novellas, and news reports that always criminalize the Black and brown population without taking into account the powerful forces that are behind them. Those are the hidden forces that people generally don't see. What do those people generally look like? So anyway, what was I saying? The problem here is that the entire Black population will always be seen as suspect, even though the vast majority of the population isn't involved in criminal activity. On the other hand, this same stigma isn't pinned on the white population, even though most people involved in white-collar crimes will be people considered white in Brazil. Whenever we see some high-profile scandal involving businessmen, politicians, etc., they will always be the so-called playboys. How could it be any other way? Black Brazilians simply aren't found in large numbers in high society. But even though mostly men and some women who are continuously busted for high profile crimes, these same people are never seen as suspect. Wonder why? Let's talk about it. So this I'm citing these posts from two different Instagram pages today. One of them is the Negritude em Letras Instagram page, and and this is what I'm using as the title of the today's video: Masterminds, white men of a privileged class with power. Okay. I think the other, I don't think I listed the other one. The other one is called Opinião da Preta, which means the opinion of a Black woman. So those are the two Instagram pages that I'm reading from today. So let's see here. White people get involved in a lot of crimes, but society teaches people to cross the street or hide their wallets when they meet Black people. Why is that? You just have to ask the question. Okay, yeah, for the most part, Black Brazilians are going to be involved in petty crimes. They stole a Stickers bar or a bag of potato chips. And something we can't deny that sometimes that we see people get killed. That's true. But what I'm asking is, why is it that the stigma will always follow the Black or brown person, but yet you have high profile criminals going on that have access to a lot of power, a lot of money, and they probably cost Brazil a lot more money than the petty crimes that the non-white population is responsible for. But yet the image in the mind of the average Brazilian is still going to say, the people with white skin on this side, they're the people that we should be looking up to. So no matter how many crimes you see being committed in high profile, high society crimes, the image of the white Brazilian is not going to be, dirty. It's always going to be attached to the Black and brown population. Why is that? That's the whole question here. You have criminals in every race. That's not the question here. But why is it that you stigmatize one side, but the other side goes unscathed in terms of how people see their image? Somebody quoted Francis Cress Welsing here. It should be realized that no Black man manufactures chemicals for drug use, nor does any Black man manufacture weapons. Okay. Brothers Domingos and Chiquinho Brazão and the city police chief Rivaldo Barbosa were arrested last Sunday, the 24th. The investigation was concluded 6 years after the murder of city councilwoman of Rio, Marielle Franco, and her driver Anderson Gomes. Who killed Marielle? It's a question everybody's been asking for 6 years, and it looks like they're getting a little bit closer to the evidence that's going to maybe finally solve who's behind this mystery. Let's see. And this is another example. Federal police concludes investigation and Renato Cariani is indicted for 3 crimes. Let's talk a little bit about this for a minute. The influencer and 2 other friends are accused of the crimes of drug trafficking association, and money laundering. That's this guy right here, Renato Cariani. So again, people threw this story in along with the arrest of the 3 suspects of ordering the murder of Marielle Franco, and they're asking, okay, look what this guy did. Why is it that this guy, he's suspected of drug trafficking, being associated with drug traffickers and money laundering? Okay. But, look what he looks like. The question is, okay, no matter how many times our people are taken down for some type of crime, the image of the white Brazilian, the image overall remains the same. That's what the question, this is the point that people are making. Look at the profile of the masterminds, white men from a privileged class with power, showing how structures of domination and privilege are constituted. Rivaldo Barbosa received Marielle Franco's family and friends at the police station after her murder. So one of the guys who is suspected of ordering the hit on Marielle Franco, he's the head of the civil police in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. And here he is sitting with Marielle Franco's family as if it was going to say, like, you know, we're going to do everything we can to bring these people to murder, to justice. And it turns out he's one of the guys who probably had a hand in ordering her assassination. You can't make this stuff up. Let me see. He said that fighting corruption was his priority. This is what he said at his inauguration as the head of the civil police. Domingos Brazão, despite being arrested in Operation Fifth of Gold, an offshoot of the Lava Jato scandal in Rio de Janeiro for his association with organized crime, still maintained his influence on state political issues. There's always some political financial scandal going on in Brazil. I'm going to talk a little bit about that after I finish this article. Chiquinho Brazão had already been indicted by the then Attorney General, Raquel Dodge, in 2019 for hindering the investigation. But the Rio courts rejected the request for indictment. So here this guy seemed like he was trying to slow down or block the investigation into who killed Marielle, clearly appearing to support the idea that he had an involvement in ordering her assassination. A privilege that only elite white men have. It took 6 years for the federal police to finally arrest the suspected masterminds of the crime. May the victims' families receive justice, and may Marielle and Anderson Gomes rest in peace. I take Angela Davis's words here. Obviously, I've spoken about Angela Davis has a strong connection to Black Brazilians. She's been in Brazil numerous times over the last few decades. She's connected, made a lot of bonds with, activists, particularly of the feminist movement, the overall Black movement in Brazil. So this is what Angela Davis had to say. She says, Marielle's spirit imbues us all. We are her legacy, and for her, we have a duty to keep fighting. Let's see, suspected masterminds of the crime. May the victims' families receive justice, and may Marielle and Anderson rest in peace. Okay, so I wrote that twice. But anyway, you get the point. It's always a question. If you see a guy walking down the street in downtown Rio who looks like me, you're going to cross the street and clutch your purse, hold on to your bag, lock your car door. But if you see three guys who look like these three guys here, four guys actually, you're not going to think twice about it because they're upstanding citizens, considering what they look like. So this has a long history in Brazil. Okay. Scandal after scandal. Let me just go through a couple of these links that I have. This is a video that I did previously talking about this, the arrest of these three in the suspected ordering of the murder of Marielle Franco. But again, this association with what they call branquitude, whiteness. Brazil's advertising industry continues to value whiteness. I used to see all the magazine stands, and that's changed recently in the last few years. But for years, I would go to Brazil and you see 50 or 60 magazines at a magazine stand, and all you see will be white faces on the cover, right? Racism in the job market, preference for whiteness continues. What else might we have here? Who would defend our children against whiteness? Just how racist school experiences interfere with the positive self-images of Black children. What else we have? Brazilians reflect on white privilege in the aftermath of a Black teen being whipped. This happened in 2019, where this Black kid was suspected of stealing something from a store. They took him out, stripped him down like naked, and they whipped him like he was a slave. Now, this article here is just about, a lot of white Brazilians who acknowledge, like, look, I stole some candy before. I stole a bag of chips before. I just got a slap on the wrist. So they acknowledge, like, between how they get caught stealing something and how a Black kid gets caught stealing something, the difference in the treatment. Again, it's not hard to tell. If people are honest about this, then they see it. This article, I'm a woman. I'm from the periphery, the poor neighborhoods, but I still have an advantage. I'm white. The recognition of white privilege and racism. This was a story about, let me see, differences in opinions about the March of Natural Black Hair and the March of Redheads. That's another story. I mean, these stories go on and on. Another case of white privilege, the attitudes towards perceived criminals when one is Black and the other is white. This is a story I did back. I recently did this video maybe a month or two ago. This guy knew his resume was the Black guy he was competing for a certain job position. This guy says, he says, look, I have white skin and green eyes. The black guy had a much better resume than I did, but I still got the job, and I knew I was going to get it because of the particular location and the company that they were trying to work for. He knew they weren't going to hire a black guy. So this is what I'm saying. You see this? This a black man was accused of stealing his own bike, but then there's a white criminal running rampant, doing all types of crimes in that particular neighborhood in Rio. This happened about a month or so ago, month and a half ago. Elderly white man stabs a black delivery man in southern Brazil. Cops violently subdued the black man and took him to jail. You can't make this stuff up. What else do you get here? Let me see. A black man driving a BMW. He must have stolen that car. Here's another good one. Video shows different reactions to almost identical photos, with the only difference being skin color. This was a I don't know if I've actually done this video, but it's an article from 2016 where they put a white man and a black man, or black man and a black woman and white woman in the exact same clothes, and people judge them differently. Black man has on a suit, he must be the security at a mall. If a white man has on a suit, he must be a businessman or a banker. Yep, that was a pretty good article. Maybe I'll do a video on that one day. What else we have? This is a very popular saying in Brazil: a white man running is an athlete, a black man running is a thief. So again, it's nothing to hide here, because people know what it means to have black, brown, or white skin in Brazil. It leads to completely different treatment. As I've said before, okay, wait, here's another one. With white skin and light colored eyes, the defendant doesn't have the stereotype of a crook. So this guy gets arrested for some crime that he did, and people, he was judged to say, well, he doesn't look like a criminal because of his attributes: white skin, light colored eyes, and straight hair. He doesn't look like a criminal. So what does that say about the black or brown person? Then you have this article here from 2019. Rich, powerful white man being cuffed and taken to prison is a common sight in Brazil. So why is it that black people are deemed the criminal element? This was a big story, because I remember there's actually a Wikipedia page. You can go and pull it up, and you'll see just all of these like huge scandals that go down in Brazil. And when you look at the people who get arrested, usually none of them are black. There'll be bankers, there'll be businessmen, there'll be politicians, whoever they might be. And you remember Ike Batista was interviewed on 60 Minutes in 2010, Brazil's economy was exploding at that time. It was telling Brazil, like, welcome to the world stage. Of course, the economy dropped drastically a few years after that. But Ike Batista appeared on 60 Minutes like this is one of Brazil's richest men. And then he got caught up in a corruption scandal. This was him, the pre-boy, playboy look, and this was him after he was arrested, being taken to prison on corruption charges in 2017. Petrolão, the 49 people involved in this scandal. And my question was, where are the black faces here? All right. Again, you have these are the people who are condemned. And this goes on and on. Scandals have followed the Bolsonaro family, the former president. Here's a banker being arrested and involved in the big Lava Jato scandal. This is a politician was arrested under corruption. Another politician, everybody knows Eduardo Cunha, he was arrested under Lava Jato. This is the former governor of Rio de Janeiro, arrested for money laundering. Businessman arrested during Lava Jato investigation. It goes on and on. So it's like the point here is, okay, multi-billionaire businessman Ike Batista, once Brazil's richest man, arrested under Lava Jato investigations. Okay, this was a black mayor of Sao Paulo, and there was some corruption going on with him way back in the day. I think he was the mayor of Sao Paulo between like 96 and 2000 or 2000, 2004. I can't remember. But the point is, it's rare that you're going to see black people, under suspicion of corruption, because black people are not in positions of power. But yet the people who are involved, who are in positions of power, they're consistently being taken to jail on some type of, high profile crime. But this does not change the image of how white people are seen in Brazil. Okay. Even a crackhead is better in white skin. Former model's descent into crack addiction and media frenzy reveals Brazil's implicit racism. This woman was once a model. She fell into crack addiction. And I did a story. They picked her up, cleaned her up, put her back on TV, told her story. This was her, when she fell into crack addiction, this was her as a model. And, the point was, people was like, there's areas of Sao Paulo you can go where you're going to find a lot of, crackhead, people who are just strung out. They will step over hundreds of black and brown bodies to find the one white girl who fell to addiction, and they're going to put her on TV. And the point is here, She's white. What is she doing there? She's not expected to fall. She's not expected to fall to drug addiction. The same they did with this guy here, who they call the Mendigo Gato, like the hot beggar. He was once a model as well. He fell to like crack addiction. But the news stories, somebody found him on the street and he was too handsome to be stuck and being homeless on the street as a drug addict. They cleaned him up, put him in rehab and was trying to, get him back to a regular life. But yet they stepped on hundreds, if not thousands of black and brown bodies to get to this guy. So this is what I'm saying. You pass by black people on the streets who look like this. And they're expected in the mind of the Brazilian, the black and brown people, they're supposed to be out on the streets. But the handsome playboy, oh, you're supposed to feel sorry for him. So this is what the point is of today's article. No matter what the white Brazilian does, no matter how many things they're caught up in scandals and criminal activity, and people are still going to look at them as outstanding citizens, even though the high profile cases are always people who look like this. So you see criminals looking like them, more European attributes, but yet you're going to cross the street when you see a guy with black and brown skin. Make that make sense to me. Anyway, want to know what you thought about this video? Drop a comment in the comment section. Like this video, share this video. Consider subscribing to the channel if you've seen more than a few videos here. Click on that notification bell so that you'll know, when I put up another video. And with that said, going to end this video here and ask that you all come back, check out the next video that I post.